In this video, I'm going to talk about my spiritual journey, why I got into it, why I felt sort of called in that direction, also why I got interested in psychedelics, and why I thought those would answer some of the questions I had. And I'll also answer at the end of the video some of the questions that you guys have been asking from my past few videos, so make sure to watch all the way to the end to get some of those answers. So I just want to let you guys know that I'm creating a Patreon account. So if any of you guys believe in what I'm doing, believe in what I have shared, and want to support me in some way, I'll put the link for my Patreon account below if you want to contribute in some way to what I'm doing. So thank you for that. So I'll get right into it. So a lot of people have been watching my past few videos. I've been talking about psychedelics and also, or at least my experience with psychedelics, which is pretty limited. And then my experience with my first psychosis after that experience. So those experiences were kind of like accumulation of me seeking out some kind of spiritual awakening, some kind of like transformation that I was seeking out. And my spiritual journey kind of started when I was in high school. All of a sudden, I just kind of got really interested into deeper questions and trying to understand, what everything was, like what's like going on here. And I think part of it was that I was struggling with a lot of anxiety, a lot of loneliness to some degree, because I had a hard time connecting with other people on a deep level. I was kind of protecting myself from being hurt, and I was looking for answers to sort of resolve some of that suffering that I was experiencing. Definitely. It started out as anxiety and loneliness, and it slowly like kind of went more into a depression and like eventually it was a pretty desperate kind of state where I was really like insecure and just felt really disconnected from the world around me. And so reading what I read, the first like spiritual text that I ever read was the Bhagavad Gita. So this was the first spiritual text that I ever read, Bhagavad Gita. I took a yoga class in high school, and that's what we read. And I really resonated with it. It made sense to me. It just, they were talking about like a higher state of consciousness, of love and acceptance and things like that, and taking care of yourself. And calming the mind. And I was like, oh, this is like really good stuff, like it makes sense to me, this is real. And so ever since then, I just kind of continued to pursue knowledge. I continued to like read different spiritual texts. I read like Eckhart Tolle. I read some Buddhist texts. I went to a Buddhist monastery in France when I was in France for a year. And I just was really like all in, and really thinking about very spiritual stuff all the time. Just existential kind of questions. And I just kept asking questions and wanting to understand more and more. And a lot of this I was doing on a very intellectual level. So I was like very involved in my thoughts, trying to figure out what these questions were and what they meant, and what was going to make me happy, I guess. But I was seeking it from the mind instead of really seeking it from a place of connection and being present. And so, a lot of that sort of journey ended up creating more suffering because I was trying to solve my restless mind with a restless mind. So I was creating more and more issues. And, meditation was something that I was struggling with, even though that was something that is pretty ubiquitous between all spiritual practices, is some kind of intentional practice of connecting with a new state, or being intentional with your mind and your presence. So yeah, it was just kind of a downward spiral. and I kept like looking more and more for answers, and I met with a mentor, which I've already mentioned in my previous videos, who wasn't really the best mentor for me, but you get what you need, not what you want. So in some way I was attracting that, and he had introduced me to psychedelics and altered states. He never gave me any psychedelics, but he basically introduced me to the concept of altered states and shamanism and things like that, exploring unseen realms that, in some ways, not that they precede the physical world, but there's like, it's understanding a bigger picture is sort of the spiritual world from what I understand now. And so he taught me about that, and so I really got interested in psychedelics, and so I was reading a ton of trip reports and revelations that people have had on different psychedelics. So I kind of got obsessed with the idea of having a psychedelic experience, because I thought it would answer all of my questions, and somehow it'd fix everything. So since I was very desperate to some degree and really suffering, there was kind of this obsession with it, and I was constantly like seeking it out and, talking to people about it, and, trying to understand more. But I wanted to do it, but I also didn't really realize the power of them. So anyways, I never ended up really deciding for myself, like me consciously choosing to take a substance. But it ended up happening, like I mentioned in my other video. And I think that like me wanting something so badly like that, like with a desperate, like no boundaries, just kind of like an unsatiated desire to like have something happen, I kind of provoked that experience to happen. There's a saying, be careful what you wish for, because it might just happen. So, I was looking for some kind of crazy experience, and I got it, So I haven't really, to answer some of your questions, I know some of you have asked me if I have done any more psychedelics since then, or if I've done psychedelics before that. The answer is no. I don't think it's worth the risk. It was a lot of strain on my family. It took like a good chunk out of my life. Like it put me out of commission for a while there. The recovery process took a long time. And, there's other ways to connect with nature, to connect with the world around us. And that's actually what I'm learning now, because I'm learning from a shaman now who's been trained in a lineage. So his father was a shaman, his grandmother was a shaman, and it kind of goes back. He's from Peru. And so I'm learning from him, and I'm learning how to connect with that aspect of spirituality, that spiritual realm without the need of substances. And oftentimes in a lot of communities and traditional societies, when somebody would have this sort of altered state where they would lose their mind, as we would say it, but in traditional societies they would say that, oh, they're navigating in the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, like they've flipped to another dimension. That person usually, if they were able to come back, they would usually, and not always, it depends on the community, but traditionally that would be like the next person to become the next healer for the community, because they're able to access different states and they're ripe for that kind of work. And that's kind of my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but there's different traditions that do different things, so it just kind of depends on what community you're in. So yeah, I haven't really done any psychedelics or anything like that since then. I just don't think that it would be smart for me. my spiritual practice has really changed since those experiences, and I've learned a lot from not only that experience but a lot of things. Like I don't want you guys to think that I'm just the guy who had some kind of psychotic break and who had like a DMT experience. There's much more to me than just those experiences. People are just drawn to those experiences because like they're not common, and so a lot of people like to watch that. But on my channel, I want to share a lot more than just those experiences. I think that I have a lot more to offer than just what I've experienced in those states. But I'm learning a lot now through my practice with my teacher Iggy, who's the shaman, and I look forward to sharing some of that experience and what I've been learning with all kinds of stuff. So my spiritual path continues. It's always a constant growth, a constant development. You never get to a certain point. It's not like you get there. That's something that I thought was a fact before, that you get to an enlightenment state, which I personally haven't experienced that. I don't think that's what happens, but I think it's just a constant development, constant learning. So that's what I look forward to sharing with you guys on this channel, and some more stuff. So if you enjoyed anything I talked about in this video, let me know by liking or commenting below. And if you'd like to see more videos by me, consider subscribing and click on that notification bell so you know when I post new videos. So as always, make sure to take time for yourself, guys, and to seek your truth. All right, I'll catch you in my next video. Bye for now.